Hello there, everyone. All of God's children, all of you seekers, all of you open-minded darlings. Hello. Welcome back to my channel. Shaman Augustina here. And apologies that it's been a minute since I released a longer form video for those watching and following. I have been in a space of major downloads, major upgrades, major ascension symptoms, as you all are as well aware. So much is going on, and I had to take a little period of intake, just intaking research and also working through and alchemizing past selves, truly past life versions of myself, past versions of myself in this life. Like, goodness, we had to let a lot of things die and a lot of ego death happen. So respectfully, I'm with you guys. I'm with you in this crazy, crazy, fabulous time. I say both words because both can be true at the same time. And so you've got, like, on one hand, all of the fall that looks really and feels really negative. And then on the other hand, holy cow, all this hope and, like, finally things had to fall so that things can get better. So there's this, like, crazy, fabulous, polarizing energy that's happening right now. And I'm finding the grounding center of both. I'm trying not to go and sway too far to one side of the pillars, just stay in this steady truth in the center. So I've been a bit busy going through the things, and I hope that you've been well going through your things as best as possible too. All my prayers and best wishes to everyone going through these times and trying to heal during these times and through these times, because that's the only thing we can do. It's the only way is through. So praying for all of you. So today I wanted to talk about my initiation into hosting and facilitating psilocybin ceremonies. And so, to clarify, I host and facilitate so many different kinds of ceremonies. So many kinds. There's so many kinds. And there's also many initiations that I had to do and cohesion growths that I had to go through and have God witness me through and put me through to get to this initiation. So respectfully, I just wanted to clarify that, because this is not my only initiation, and this is not, the first one that hit me. This initiation came from activations and many initiations beforehand. So today I wanted to talk about my psilocybin assisted ceremony initiation, because the ceremonies are consistent and picking up all the time. Seekers are always coming to find me for ceremony. And so I wanted to have a video reference point for context to tell the story, because I don't always have all the time to talk to everybody about my initiation story, and everybody should know. Everyone who comes to me for ceremony should know. So I'm making this video as a reference point, context information, and also to get the ball rolling on me telling my story, because there's so many parts to my story that I didn't know where to start. I can't even start at the beginning. Like, that's just how crazy it feels, how full it all feels. So I'm going to just start at this point, because this is a very important point, and the world is opening massively and rapidly to ceremony and this medicine. So I want to speak to it. So first of all, I want to start off by saying that I do not judge anyone for their use and their past use of psilocybin or mushrooms. I do not judge anyone's history with them, whether you've done them in part as party favors or not done them at all. I do not judge anyone's history, because for me it was a fumbling with this medicine to understand it myself and to understand my purpose with it myself. So I wanted to start by saying that, because I am a glass house, so I do not throw stones. I had to come to this understanding through trial and error, and I make a lot of mistakes. God has gifted me with that beautiful ability to learn from a lot of mistakes. So I make a lot of mistakes. So just wanted to start by saying that, because a lot of people can hinder themselves from getting this medicinal support for whatever reason, because they may judge their past history with it, or they might think a shaman or ceremony holder might judge their past history with it. And so I just have to say, all the shamans are the biggest mistake makers, respectfully, and we own that shit. We are accountable to that shit, and we do not judge for that shit. So respectfully, shadow work, understood. And there was initiations with that for myself before I got to this ceremony. So in that, saying I had misused or used mushrooms and psilocybin out of context in ceremony before I got to this point. Not a bunch, but enough to know that there's a right way and a wrong way. So, getting to the initiation. So, my original intention with this mushroom use at the time, so this was 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago now. So 5.5 years ago, I'm with one of my best girlfriends at the time. We won't use her name out of respect to her and her ceremony and how the relationship has changed since. So I was with my best girlfriend at the time. I'm a single mother. She's a mother. And we were looking to just have our mom's night out, our mom's weekend out, away from the kids, have our time in this fabulous apartment cabin looking thing out in Banff, Canada. So that is in a very dense mountainous nature spot in Canada. And it is so, so beautiful there, surrounded by massive amounts of Rocky Mountains. And wildlife and all the things. And so her and I are just like, let's go to Banff. Let's get this room. Let's go do some mushrooms, have a happy giggle and feel better. And then come back to our kids recharged, having had a fun night out, just her and I. And our goal, like our original goal with using these mushrooms was to also just go out and explore nature and just go out for a little hike around where our apartment was and just frolic in the forest, you know? So little did we know, we were signing up for a frolic in the forest and we were actually going to get a crazy, crazy ceremony sat down by God. So we do these mushrooms. We get there, we're in our clothes so that we're ready to go outside, right, and play and go frolic and stuff. And we take these mushrooms and respectfully, to myself, we did not take them in any kind of tea form or potion form or anything like that. So we were taking the physical version of the mushroom and just take a bunch of those back. Respectfully, I don't think I did a like huge 6 gram type of hero dose. I swear to God, it was maybe like 3 grams, 4 grams max. I say that because usually the amount affects the length of time and the intensity of the high. And it didn't seem like that was the case for this use of mushrooms. God was just cranking it to full max, full effects. And I was high for around 8 hours, upwards of 8 hours, which is the longest ceremony I have been in up to date. Yeah, longest one. Wasn't planning for that. Just what happened. So we take the physical mushroom and we're waiting for it to kick in. And we're like, oh, we'll just wait for it to kick in to kind of get an idea of how the high is before we go outside. So we're waiting. This thing kicks in. And right away, both her and I deeply understand. And if you've ever done psilocybin or used it before, you understand that once the high starts kicking in, there's an overwhelming overcoming of your thoughts and your mind. And so respectfully, we had this overwhelming wave of understanding that we were not going anywhere. We had to sit down and deal with that mushroom and deal with that download and deal with that initiation. There was like no up and walking around, nothing. It was sit down, shut up and listen. And I mean that with love, like respect. I'm not crying about that. That's what it was. That's how it was. And it was very hard and fast. We were just like, oh, wow, we're not actually going anywhere. We are going to be sitting here on the deck, staring out at the mountains, the grandfather mountain and all the trees. And this is actually where we will be parked for the next however long. So that was fascinating. I had never had a ceremony where I couldn't move before, and I really couldn't move from that spot. So let me check my notes here. Okay. So what I found most fascinating was right away, I was concentrated, hyper focused, and listening to the wisdom of this grandfather mountain that we were sitting right before. So there was this giant mountain, and it's just telling me what it has seen, what it has known, and also how long it had been here. It was telling me about how it could feel the plates pushing together to create its height over time, how it has grown itself. And just so much ancient wisdom from this mountain. So I'm sitting there in awe of like, oh my gosh, this grandfather has a story to tell. And I obviously have to listen. You're not going to disrespect when an elder starts sharing a story, right? So I was like, got it. I am here to listen. And as I am being strapped in listening to these beautiful shares from this mountain, my best girlfriend at the time starts struggling greatly. And she starts purging violently. And she's just like, she's fine. And then all of a sudden she is sick and she's got to run to the bathroom. And I'm an empath. And so immediately I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm worried about her. And so it's really painful. And so, sorry, I had a dust fly in my eye because my fan's going. Anyways, it was really painful for her, and she was really struggling and really sick, and I could hear her throwing up in the other room. And I asked her if she needed any help and support, even just like me hold her hair, right? And she was like, no, don't worry. I just need to do this. She wouldn't tell me anything else. Just, no, it's fine. I need to do this. You stay there. And I got so concerned. I started asking God, I'm like, should I go help her? Like, she's telling me she's fine, but I feel like I should be in there. And God's like, no, respectfully, she will make it through this. It's for her to do and her to get through. Part of her purging is because of you. So you kind of can't support that. It's a frequency and vibration misalignment, respectfully. And she's got to work through that and get rid of some sludge, basically, respectfully, to be around me. And so I was like, oh, okay, I respect that. Energetically, I won't interfere in her process because it's very personal, right? And as long as she's okay, I'm on standby. But as long as she's okay doing that, I will respect that process. So it's very fascinating because I didn't imagine that. But the whole time she was reassuring me that she was fine, though she was also not. But I did trust that she knew she was going to get through it and that there would be an end. So eventually, girlfriend stops purging, and she comes to sit back beside me on the deck. I'm not actually sure how long it took her for her to do that because time is so skewed in ceremony space. So it was a while. Then she comes back. And then we're just sitting on the deck, and both of us know that this high is such a big deal. And it's an unfolding as well. So she's very overwhelmed spiritually, and so am I. And then she looks at me just to go to share, to speak. And I notice right away that her eyes change. They went from green to blue to black, back to green to blue to black, and they cycled through these three colors. And I chose to not be afraid. I just chose to witness, because there's a choice, right? I was like, I could be afraid of this right now, but I'm just going to witness this. And as I witnessed it, I asked God in my mind, I was like, is that what I think it is? Like shapeshifter energy. And God's like, yes, it's Loki. And I was like, okay. And for those of you who don't know, I'm First Nations and Norwegian. So the Norse gods and all those things resonate with me. And so the Loki trickster energy of playing for both sides kind of vibe, I was very aware of. And I was like, okay, like those are the things she's working on, she's healing through and with, right? And for my awareness, I have to be mindful of what I share, what I say, what I'm hearing. I was just very aware of that. And then God tells me, as I'm also staring at this mountain, getting all of grandfather's wisdom, God tells me that this is what I'm going to be doing now. And I didn't know what that meant at first. And God started showing me this picture and sharing that I will be hosting ceremonies and I will be using this medicine very intentionally. And that this is something I will be using to hold space for other people's healing in the future, more and more and more through over the years. And God said that this was my initiation and that he needed me to not speak during the ceremony, and which was just a mushroom trip that turned into a ceremony. And so God said, here's your first instruction and test in ceremony is I don't want you to speak anymore throughout this high with your friend. And your friend's going to ask you a lot of questions. And she's not actually ready to hear the answers. And so you must act as the gate of information. And you must test the waters, how to keep yourself safe, how to keep them safe, how to keep the information safe, knowing when to share, knowing when not to, out of respect for people's capacity and where their soul is at. So God's like, I'm going to give you lots and lots and lots of information in ceremony every time, and you are rarely going to speak. And I understood that unless great purpose, I must not speak into ceremony. It affects so many things. So it's like as soon as I got that download and that awareness, God's like, zip it. As soon as that happened, it's like my best girlfriend also picked up on that frequency, that cue and that download. And she knew right away. And she just looks at me as soon as I finish getting that download, and she looks over at me and then tilts her head, not a glare, but tilts her head and is like, so what are the secrets of the universe? And I was like, internally, like, are you kidding me? We're going to go 0 to 1,000 and she's going to know that I got that instruction, and she's going to go right to testing me. And with nothing light, like, bam, I'm going to ask you a loaded question that technically at the time I could say I didn't have the answer to, but as soon as she asked it, boy, did I have the damn answer, and I couldn't speak. And so immediately I'm just like, oh, wow. And the answer is just sitting there in this back burner, like, oh my God, the thing she wants to hear, the thing her soul needs to hear, all these things. It's like the answer. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not allowed to talk. Okay. And at the time, respectfully, I was hardcore in recovery with people pleasing. Like, I'm a recovered people pleaser. And so at the time I was in great practice of this, and I, was trial and erroring all the time, trying to figure it out, because a giver just gives. And so I just want to give and make things easier and happier and all the things. I want to fix the problems. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm not allowed. Okay, God. And then I'm like, sitting there like, I can't actually talk. Like, it's like Beetlejuice level. God slapped a freaking zipper on my mouth, and it's like, and God and I both know I'm being fully witnessed right now. And so God will know if I just unzip it even halfway to slip something out. God's like, I'm watching the zipper on your mouth. And I'm like, so I've got zipper mouth, and she knows it, and she's just looking at me like aware, like, and then she's like, you can't say, can you? And then she leans in more, and she's like, I'm gonna get every answer out of you that I want telepathically, even if you can't speak. So then I had to learn another level of, I don't want to call it gatekeeping, but keeping internal psychic gates respectfully for God. And so I'm like, this is my duty right now. And for me, but for also God, it's for both of us. We're on a team. And so I'm just like, oh my, I literally, like, this girl was the ultimate tester. And she went for it. And so she rapid fire, and I can't share these details because this is very specific and pertinent to her ceremony and her healing and what she went through at the time. But I will tell you, she asked me trying to find out everything from every angle, every kind of question, and layered it with guilt, manipulation, like respectfully, everything she could to try and get the people pleaser to not be uncomfortable anymore and just divulge. And I want to say God wouldn't let me, but when I really think about it, it was my higher self that wouldn't let me, because my higher self is square with God. So it was like my higher self was like, you shall not pass. I still love you. And so that was the thing. It's like every time she'd ask me a question, I couldn't speak. I was giving compassion. I was psychically and telepathically giving just enough to validate her, to make her feel seen, to cue her that maybe she was on the right track. You know, like there was so much purpose and intention with every grunt or moan or or like any noise I made or didn't make. The eye contact that I also make, because I speak through my eyes very clearly and deeply into people's souls. When I'm looking deep into their eyes and they're looking deep into mine, there's the information exchange. But I had to learn this, a spiritual safety boundary that God asked me to learn and start learning how to do, like very actively. And so I understood that was my whole purpose to that initiation, was to learn discernment and to learn silence and when to listen even more. Like I've always been a good listener. I've also been trained in listening as a counselor, but it's another level of listening with your soul. So it was a good test. Let me just say that. Put hair on my chest. So that's a saying my dad used to say. Every time you got tougher or wiser, you get more hair on your chest. I'm a girl. I know it's not supposed to apply to me, but it did growing up. So that's how I am. So put hair on my chest. Anyway, if you know, you know. If you don't, whatever. Just laugh. It's okay. None of us are getting out of here alive, you know? So we can't take this place too seriously. Like, because if you notice, the more serious you take this place, the more miserable we are, right? So like, keep having fun, right? Keeping it light. So anyways, as much as we can, it's heavy enough. So anyway, as this discernment test is going on, and she's running out of questions, respectfully. And there's so much being shared. There's so much acknowledgement, though, too, like just shared in the sense of witnessing. So I got to very much witness the naivety and the place that she was at, respectfully, how much more there was to learn. And then same for myself as I was discerning this initiation. And then at a point, a gear shift happened, and we're staring out over this grandfather mountain, right? And she's also getting downloads from the mountain. Thank God. Thank God. And all of a sudden, there's this bright light that just starts shining. Very concentrated, very obviously at the top of this mountain. And it has a channel, like it has this string that goes up into the heavens. Very clearly, you can see this light string and this bright light, and it moves over the mountain and comes back to its spot and moves and then comes back to the spot. And Sarah and I are just like hyper focused on this thing. Like, holy shit, you see that, right? I see that. Oh my God, we're seeing this. What is that? It's not a plane. It's not any man-made light. It's not a helicopter. It's not freaking any of that. I don't care what anyone wants to respectfully project onto what it could have been. It wasn't anything human made. And you just knew. And we just also knew it was for us. And then more specifically, my best girlfriend at the time knew it was for me. So we're sitting there on our freaking spot. We're not allowed to leave. And she looks at me, looks back at that thing, and then looks at me, and she's like, and at this point, it had been like 6 hours into this high in this ceremony. It's like some stupid o'clock in the morning. and she's tired and she's coming down from the high, and I'm still not. I am still very, very with God, very aware. And she's starting to come down, get tired. So she's like, that came here for you, and it's here for you. And you need to sit here and be with it. And she's like, I'm going to go to bed. It's not my time anymore. So she dismisses herself from ceremony, genuinely bowed out. And I even think physically, and then went to bed, which was beautiful and honoring. And I was so grateful. And at the time, still unable to speak, right? So I'm just nodding like thank you for acknowledging that. And then I sat there, stared at what I found out was an angel. At one point, she spreads her wings. So I'm just staring in total awe with this grandfather mountain and this angel who start giving me the download and reminding me who I am. And I didn't fully know at the time who I was, my internal source, but I knew it was her. It was connected to her. It had all the things to do with her. She had to tell me. And so I was very grateful. I was like, I see myself in this bright light, in all of the darkness, because it was so pitch black at night at that point. All the stars are in the sky, but she's the brightest light on the top of a mountain that you can't look away from. So I spent another 2 hours or so just talking with her, getting downloads. And then eventually I was dismissed from ceremony as well. That was my initiation. Respectfully, also to speak, I know who I am now. In the last 6 months, I have had full closure on who I am and what my source is now. Just took me 33 years to figure it out. So I didn't even know when I first started hosting, facilitating ceremonies, psilocybin ceremonies. Just to say that so much of learning about who you are is an unfolding, and you will give yourself the information when it is time and when it is right. If you can quiet your mind and quiet the outside noise, you will learn and you will hear and you will find out who you are. So that was the start of my journey, figuring out who I was with psilocybin ceremony. That was my initiation. And I understood after that there would just be more and more opportunities to get better at this, to learn my role, and to hold space. So having been a facilitator, a counselor, a social worker, human services worker, let's put a nutshell on it really, because I've done everything from casework to freaking everything, family support, and all this stuff. So going from like holding space for healing and so many other types of ceremony, I actually had confidence in approaching this, but without knowing where to start. I just knew this is what God wanted me to do. So to remain open. And then after that, organically and naturally, I have had ceremonies since. I got a list here with doctors and lawyers and businessmen and women and autistic people and my friends and ex-partners and all sorts of clients. So since then, God is sending me the people who want to do ceremony with me. Now, to speak to an example of how that also got started off more in a professional sense. So in the unfolding of 5 years, to leading to now, I eventually met a client who was a weed grower, distributor, seller, that whole deal. He did the whole process himself, respectfully. He worked in the very professional side of things as well through Canada. So all the regulation, all the legalities. And so he had a very, very well-researched and good understanding of the pricing, how people are doing it professionally, how doctors are doing it, actually all around the world, because he did business all around the world. He also had done his own psilocybin assisted ceremonies and other types of ceremonies with other shamans and practitioners in the past. So he had a very good understanding of what I did and how I should go about it. So he informed me greatly of pricing, how other people are going about it, and how to make it as professional as possible. The setup. And alongside me doing it as natural to my shaman and First Nations and Norwegian roots that really don't want really gross structure that could mess up my whole flow. So the feminine of me met with the professional, nerdy side of me through this one fabulous client. And I was so grateful for that. He came to me for therapy originally. And then he ended up helping me and greatly informing how I could get this going and making it more accessible to more people. And also how to honor myself best financially as well. So I did a ceremony with this fella, and it was so wonderful. It was so great. What I learned from doing ceremony with him and where I'm at now is that I do not ingest or suggest ingesting unless you have a lot of history with this and you know your guts well. I have learned how to make mushroom tea, and I make it in such a way where it removes the parts that make us ill. And it's usually the physical part of the mushroom that is poisonous and doesn't agree with our guts. And that's what can upset the use of it or give us a bad trip and things like that. So I remove the physical part of the mushroom. I've learned that since. We make a fabulous tea. I have a fabulous setup with crystals. And at the time with this client that I'm referencing, I only had my 2 first ceremony crystals, labradorite and jade at the time. And so, and also these goddess stones as well that I use on the third eye. So I only had these 4 crystals at the time for his ceremony. And it was so successful that at one point I'm using this jade on his back where he had a lot of stuck energy, and I'm just working it out, getting it out. And there was so much stuck energy that I actually thought it might be hurting him to be pulling out so much black sludge from his body. And then I asked him, are you okay? Can you handle this? Speaking in ceremony. And he was like, this is the most amazing feeling I ever felt. So I learned that extractions actually in ceremony felt really good and really positive. So that was something I learned in ceremony with him. And then from then, I have hosted with so many other people, and I have learned that most often in most ceremonies with me, most people have to put their head into my lap and have their lap on my womb, so the womb of the mother universe, and they have to have their third eye and their head just in my lap while I put these 2 crystals on their third eye, these 2 beautiful Mother Gaia crystals. And I have to hold those crystals there for the whole freaking ceremony, just so you know. And I asked God at one point, I was like, is my arm going to get too tired? Seriously, can I hold up this thing this whole time? God's like, trust me, you will have super strength in your arm. And I literally will not put my arm down. I just disassociate from my arm, and she just has her purpose because I have to complete the circuit with my fingers holding them in place on someone's third eye. So this is what opens up their ability to see the further once they're activated with the mushroom. And then what started happening was I was granted a new sight and cohesion. And so when I'm in ceremony, I can see people's brains, heads, bodies, all of their physical as an MRI and X-ray machine. And I can see their grids, their meridians, their energy, their flow, their chi, their aura. I can see respectfully injuries on the inside, organs that aren't working properly, and maladaptive neurotransmitters and neural pathways in their mind that have been affected by all of what's being human, what it means to be human. So being poisoned from every angle, right? It's no one's fault. Just what crosses the blood-brain barrier, what happens in here, I can just see it all. And so when I'm looking at somebody's body in those ways, God and their angels and their higher self are telling me where they need some work and some love. And so I end up using either a rose quartz cone, a jade cone, a labradorite cone, or my quartz crystal. And I redirect, remove, extract whatever energy work needs to happen in those spots. I rewire best as I can based off of what I can see and what someone is willing to do work on and how far they're willing to go. So, and in that process, as I'm working on the body, they're working on their mind. And so people will share almost everything that comes to their mind and everything that comes to their soul to be processed, because these beautiful crystals force that right out. And it's all with love. None of this is painful. But people will be telling their stories beautifully as I am recording it and as I am doing the body work to fix. And so a lot of times people can forget what happens in ceremony just because there's so much overwhelming spiritual information that's coming in, so many downloads, so much healing, so much insight. And it can be so overwhelming, and especially depending on how long the ceremony goes. So a lot of people can forget afterwards during the integration stages. They can kind of forget what they learned, or some of the aha moments, or some of the connections. And that's my purpose and duty, is to record those things so I never forget. And I can always see what the person on my lap is seeing, because they usually have their eyes closed for the whole ceremony. I can see what you're seeing most of the time, unless God doesn't want me to see it. And then I mad respect the boundaries, because that one's just for you. But otherwise, I am the record keeper, so that if you need to come back to me and ask questions about the ceremony a year, 2, 3 later, I am the vault. I have recorded it and I can reflect it back to you. So that is part of my purpose and duty in ceremony, as well as rewiring. And I also wanted to say there is much smudge and energetic cleansing and removal and protection during ceremony. All of my protective measures and spiritual protective measures are activated and engaged and set up actually days before and last for a week after ceremony. And I also have to say, we always have present an eagle feather, spread all of that independent, fierce love around. And then also the spiritual sword. It's a physical knife that's very huge, a hunting knife, but at the same time, it represents in the spiritual realm, a giant sword. So when that one's down and that one's out and that one's aware, no one comes around. None of the entities, none of the dark matter or the dark energy, respectfully, because we are divinely protected. And they also know they can't come in on ceremony with me. So to date, I have not had anyone purge in ceremony since my initiation ceremony. So respectfully, I don't think that was about me, other than my effect of frequency wise. So I have really, really worked hard to remove the nauseating aspect, even though there's always risk for some purging. If there is some stuff in your bloodline, if there's some curses, if there's some stuff that's really, really old, there could be some purging. But up to this date, I have not experienced that, even though I always hardcore spiritually and physically clean my toilet and my bathroom for all the readiness for anything that could happen. But everyone's ceremony is so divinely unique that I have to be adaptable to the individual's needs, the individual's history, and the individual's spiritual duty. So every ceremony, we are just bringing you back to your own source of consciousness, reminding you who you are in full before you came here and forgot everything. So it's been a wonderful unfolding, because every time I'm helping someone remember who they are through ceremony and then bring them back to their source and source with God, I remember like a little bit more about myself. I remember, oh, hey, here's another past life I messed with. Here's another past life I did. Oh, here's another one. I just get like downloads and downloads, little things that teach me about myself too, to the point where now all ceremonies this year have given me full closure on my true source. In my Jesus year as well, I just find timing so beautiful and funny. Like, I'm in my 33rd year. I call it my Jesus year. And this is when I figure out who I am. I'm good with it. I'm good with this. The universe works in beautiful ways. So, I know that wasn't a perfectly curated podcast story of my initiation and ceremonies, but I did want to give some insight into how I got started into this and some information of ceremonies since, so that you can get an idea of how personalized it is and how I am here with you learning, and I'm secure in my learning. And it's so wonderful because every time I go to do a ceremony and I'm just like, I don't know, like, what if I do something wrong this time? Like the little voice of doubt that's always in a perfectionist's mind that's trying to get you to do everything correct. And God's just like, you have been doing this always, girl. So God's like, you can't mess this up because you're the one who started this and designed this and all the things. So it's so funny. I just follow my feet, and somehow every time it works out, every time we get to beautiful places of crescendo, and then the come down is also light, gentle, not rocky at all. I've had such great success in ceremony. And so I just wanted to share that because I know people want this medicine and this healing. And so I want to put it out there to say that it is available. It can be truly helpful if your mind and body and spirit are all ready to approach it. And I just highly recommend that you find somebody who is willing to go to those shadow places with you, who is strong enough to go to those shadow places with you, so that you're not just using psilocybin or mushrooms on your own and then trying to navigate from any kind of unhealed place what that information brings you. You deserve to have it validated, seen, witnessed, and supported, and respectfully healed and alchemized. So I pray that on your journey and your research that you find what you're looking for. Do your research, do your due diligence, and feel with your heart into who you're doing ceremony with. And I know a lot of it is about thinking, but most of it is in your heart. It will resonate. It will feel good all the way throughout if you're ready to approach a ceremony with a shaman. So use your discernment that you've been working your whole life to cultivate. Use your heart to choose and to heal. And I hope this gave a little bit of more information about psilocybin-assisted ceremonies from this shaman. I will definitely be making more videos about more ceremony stories because there's so much to share, so much juicy goodness that I think, is just relevant during these times to give examples of all the different ways it can go, but in respect to people's privacy. So I will definitely be sharing more psilocybin ceremonies and examples of. I hope you're all having a beautiful day, a beautiful life. I'm going to say it because if there's a lot of delusional sadness in this world, I'm going to be delusionally happy for you. Just to balance some of it out with love and gentle reminders that you're worthy of being whole and happy, and to bring in the positive new timeline that we're already on. Bring it in, sisters and brothers. Loving yourself harder, being willing to go there, and doing this shadow work and ceremony work. Okay. All my love. Talk to you so soon.